Faith is more than a feeling or a theory. It's a decision that moves your feet, opens your hands, and activates God's promises. In our brand new book, Faith Act, Jeffrey and I take you on a powerful journey through some of Scripture's most transforming moments, where ordinary people dared to obey and saw heaven move on their behalf. Order your copy of Faith Act today on Amazon.
Sharing good news of great joy to all people. Elation Church.
Today we're starting a series on the glory. Everybody say the glory. Now we sing that word and we hear that word, but do we actually understand what the glory is? Have we ever experienced the glory? The glory is something that each one of us have the opportunity to experience. Okay? So, we're going to start in Exodus chapter 33. I don't have enough time to read the whole chapter because we're going to multiple places. I am going to focus in on several verses, but let me set up where we are. God's people had spent a long time at Mount Sinai, coming out of captivity in Egypt. They went to Mount Sinai. You've heard of the Ten Commandments, right? You've heard of Moses destroying the first set and then having to make another set. Him spending 40 days on the mountain at least a couple of times. God's people saw. It was a long time before I understood this or recognized this, but God spoke to everybody at first. He spoke to all of them. But then all of a sudden, God's people said, that's too frightening for us. And they said, from now on, God, we don't want you to talk to us anymore. We just want you to talk to Moses. And then let Moses know what to talk to us about. Because it was an amazing demonstration of the glory of God, but it was too much for them to take hold of. Look at the person beside you and say, it's not too much for me to take hold of. Not too much for me to take hold of. Well, they'd been there for a while. It was time for them to leave Mount Sinai. If you look at the first part of Exodus 30, it started with an E anyway, right? Look at the first part. God is telling them that it's time to leave. It's time to leave and it's time to go to the land of promise flowing with milk and honey. They had already built the tabernacle, the tent that they built to travel through the wilderness that they actually kept until the time of David was their meeting place for God. Tabernacle was built. The Ark of the Covenant was in the Holy of Holies of the tabernacle. Now, Moses, they would set the tabernacle, the tent of meeting, outside the camp, not right in the middle of the camp, but outside the camp. And Moses would go there. You can find this in chapter 33. Moses would go there, and when they knew that Moses was going, everybody would come outside of their tents, and they would see Moses going into the tent of meeting, into the tabernacle. And when Moses would go in, a pillar of cloud would hover over the entrance. That's awesome, right? Now, one thing that I thought about while I was preparing this week's message, I've never looked at the Ark of the Covenant this way. I should have, but how many of you know you can spend a long time in the Bible, a long time, and not really catch things? But God had told his people, he had told Moses, I'm going to meet with you between the cherubims, above the cherubims of the Ark of the Covenant. That's where I'm going to meet with you. Now, we could look at that, the Ark of the Covenant, as the earthly throne of God. God is in the throne room of eternity, right? But this became his earthly throne. We used to sing a song, I'll be more undignified than this, right? We used to jump around, act crazy. When I was younger, my knees were better, my back was better. but it's a Crowder song. I don't know if you've ever heard of it or not. I'll be more undignified than this. And I would talk about that the presence of God was with the Ark of the Covenant. And during the time of David, the Ark came back to God's people, so the presence of God returned back to God's people. And that's why David was so excited. His wife got on him and said, "You acted like a fool today." He said, this is my version, "Bless your heart, I wasn't doing it for you anyway." Right? When it comes to me celebrating and worshiping God, I'll be even more undignified than this. You hadn't seen it all yet. But the ark was there, the earthly throne of God, the pillar of cloud, when Moses would meet with God. And God's saying, all right, it's time to leave. It's time to leave and go to the promised land. And Moses made a statement in verses 15 and 16. Then Moses said, because God had actually said, if you read it, God had actually said, these people, by the way they've been acting, I'm going to send an angel to help you out. I'm going to still help you. If I'm with you all the time, these people aren't going to want me to be with them all the time the way they're acting. You can read it for yourself. Then Moses said to God, listen to his heart. If you don't personally go with us, don't make us leave this place. Just letting us sit there a minute. He so desired the presence of God that he didn't want to go anywhere or do anything if he was doing it away from the presence of God. If you don't personally go with us, don't make us leave this place. He said, how will anyone know that you look favorably upon me or on me and your people if you don't go with us? And then I found something else that I've just never seen before. How many of you have read the Bible and you've read something so many times and then all of a sudden it's like, how could I have missed this? That's coming up. Moses says to God, for your presence among us sets your people and me apart from all other people on the earth. Now, last week, we talked about something that set us apart. How we will be recognized as God's people. Does anybody remember what that is? They will know that we are Christ's followers by our, say it loud, they will know that we are Christians by our love. Everybody say love. And I've always focused on that and talked about that and preached about that. But here we find something else that's very important. God's presence among God's people sets his people apart from all the other people on the earth. God's presence. A few verses later, Moses responded, show me your glory. Show me your glorious presence. I mean, had Moses not seen the glory of God? Spending 40 days with God on the mountain and the glory of God just covering Mount Sinai and him speaking out of the clouds? Moses responded, God, Show me your glory. Show me your glorious presence. And right after that, we find the story of God saying, okay, here's what's going to happen. My goodness, everybody say goodness, because God's a good God. All right, we've got to get that down pat. We've got to know that God's a good God. We can't let situations that we go through interpret who we think God is. Because God's a good God. Whew, thank you for helping me. He said, my goodness is going to pass before you. God's so good you can see his goodness. Just think about that. He says, but you can't see my face. You can't see my face. I mean, this is Old Testament. Everybody say Old Testament. You can't see my face. So here's what I'm going to do. My goodness is going to pass before you. I'm going to cover you up with my hand, and then I'm going to let you see my glory as I pass by. And that's what happened. Glory. That Hebrew word is called bod. And here's what it means. It means weight. Everybody say weight. And this version of the word is always used figuratively, and it's always used in a good sense. The root of the word is not necessarily always good. All right? It's weight, but it can be a bad weight, a crushing weight. This particular version of the word is figuratively, it's in a good sense, and it's translated glory. Everybody say glory. Splendor. Everybody say splendor. Honor. Everybody say honor. That's the way it's translated in our English language, but it's called bod. It's a weight. And I've just got to share with you, every time I've experienced the manifested presence of God, the glory of God, it's felt like a weight. Not a bad weight. Not a bad heaviness. Because we all know what a bad heaviness is like, right? We've had heaviness before that was not good heaviness. But every time I've experienced his glory, it's always felt like a weight. A weight. And I believe his glory can be experienced. The main reason is because I've experienced it. I mean, the Bible tells it, and I agree with that, but I believe everybody in this room can experience the glory of God. I really do. But it's going to take something on your part. Now, we could describe this as one of the most daring prayers in all of Scripture. Most people, when they pray to God, they're asking him for something. We went through a series on powerful prayer. We're asking God for something. We're asking God for success in whatever we're going through. We're asking God for stability. We're asking God for comfort. We're asking God for blessing. But Moses wasn't asking God for any of that. He was asking for God himself. He was wanting to continue to experience the manifested presence of God. He didn't want to leave Mount Sinai and say, well, remember that? Remember when God appeared to us? Remember when God talked to us? Remember, back in the day, I spent 40 days with God on the mountain. That wasn't good enough. He's like, I got to have it. I got to have the presence of God. I've got to have the glory of God. So he was praying for God, not for blessing, not for comfort, not for success. He's praying for God. Moses wasn't hungry for better circumstances. He was hungry for God's presence. And I'm going to be straight up with you. The only way you're going to experience it is if you're hungry for it. We're hungry for a lot of things, right? We have passion for a lot of things in this world. But we've got to be passionate for God if we're going to experience His presence. The glory of God is the manifested presence of God. You might say, God's everywhere all the time. What are you talking about? God is omnipresent, right? He's everywhere all the time. So what are you talking about? I can't go anywhere and not be in the presence of God. Right? You can't. You cannot hide from God. But there are some times when He's more here. Everybody say more here. There's times when He's more here than His omnipresence. Just like we already talked about when I said when we gather together in His name, what does the Bible say? He is here. He's here. Well, if He was already here, then why does it say that? Well, it says it because there's sometimes when He's more here. That's the glory or the manifested presence of God. God didn't rebuke Moses. God answered Moses and revealed Himself to Moses. Now in Chile, I've never been to Chile. Has anyone ever been to Chile? In the middle of the driest desert in Chile, there are patches of ground that look permanently dead. No moisture, nothing green, no life. And it's so dead that scientists call it the place where nothing grows. The place where nothing grows. But every 10 years, a big rain sweeps across. More rain than they've had in the whole 10 years combined. I mean, just a big rain comes through. And guess what happens? The desert, the place where nothing grows, explodes with color. Purple, yellow, white, and red wildflowers stretch across miles of land that was once barren. No one went out there with seeds to plant seeds. No one tended or cultivated the soil. Nobody fertilized the ground. Those seeds were already there, and they were just waiting on the rain. Sat there for 10 years, dormant, just waiting on the rain. Many believers live like deserts. Has anybody ever had a dry time? Know what I'm talking about? Some people don't even know that there's anything but a dry time. They've never experienced anything above that. But many believers live like deserts, dry, distracted, spiritually barren. Here's the deal. Hunger for the presence of God, hunger for the glory of God is the rain that will make the dead places in your life and in your heart come alive. Hunger. Only those who are hungry for God will experience the glory of God. You're not going to experience the glory of God by accident. It's not just going to happen. You're not going to experience it. Listen, you're probably not even going to experience it if the person sitting beside you experiences it. Someone else's hunger can't bring an experience of the glory of God to you. It can't come from somebody else. It's got to come from you. Here's what David said one time when he was in a desert place. Oh God, You are my God. I earnestly search for you. My soul thirsts for you. My whole body longs for you. In this parched and weary land where there's no water. Here's why what was he doing? He's earnestly searching. His soul is thirsting. His whole body is longing. You know why? Here's why. He says, God, I have seen you in your sanctuary. I have gazed upon your power and glory. I've seen it. It's kind of like Moses. Moses has seen it, and he don't want to live without it. Because once you see it, you want it even more. And David had seen it. David was hungry because he had seen something. And even if you've never seen it, I hope you get hungry today just by knowing that you can see it. One glimpse of God ruins you for the normal. You just don't want to just have just normal, dead, dry anymore when you get a glimpse of God. Once you've sensed his presence, once you've touched his glory, once you've tasted his goodness, everything else becomes insufficient. Just got to have more. Hunger prepares a place for glory. It prepares a place for glory. How else can we prepare a place for glory? In our hearts, in our homes, in our lives, in Elation Church. How can we prepare a place to experience the glory of God? Well, one way is through worshiping God. And remember, worship, genuine worship, real worship has to begin in our hearts. And we sing these songs not as entertainment, not as a little kumbaya, let's sing together and smile. And we sing these songs so that we have an opportunity to come together and express our hearts together to God. That's why we sing them. To prepare for the glory through our worship. 2 Chronicles 5:13 says this. The trumpeters, this is one of the great displays of the glory of God in the Old Testament. The trumpeters and singers performed together in unison to praise and give thanks to the Lord, accompanied by trumpets, cymbals, and other instruments. They raised their voices and praised. They praised the Lord with these words. He is good. His faithful love endures forever. Let's say that together. He is good. His faithful love endures forever. Let's change the he to God. God is good. God's faithful love endures forever. Come on, say it again. Say it from your heart. Don't just say it like you're reading something in the second grade all together as a class. Let's say it together. God is good. God's faithful love endures forever. He's good and his mercy endures forever. That's what they were doing. That's what they were saying. And listen to what happened. At that moment, a thick cloud filled the temple of the Lord. The priests could not continue their service because of the cloud. For the glorious presence of the Lord, Yahweh. Every time it's capitalized Lord, it's Yahweh. For the glorious presence of Yahweh filled the temple of God. I know y'all would love it if the glory showed up in such a way that I couldn't even preach. I would love it more than you would. That's what happened when they came together and they were worshiping God from their hearts. Not just going through the motions, but worshiping God together. That word cloud is all known, and it's translated cloud. This was something that they could see. It's not just something that they could feel. This is something that they could see with their eyes. Clouds, a heavy mist. Did I not think about that while I was coming to church this morning at 7 o'clock, going through that fog? And I'm like, I'm about to preach about this. This is just like, it'd be awesome if this was inside the church today. Not just up and down 27 getting here, but if it was inside, this heavy mist. Listen, their worship did not create the glory. Just because you get goosebumps doesn't mean that the glory's there. Because you can go to some show of some famous singer that really has a powerful voice and a moving song, and you get goosebumps, even if they're singing about ducks or something. I mean, so the worship. Has anybody ever had legit glory bumps, though, when you sense the presence of God and you got like goosebumps on your arm? Not saying that that's could not be an indicator, but it's not always an indicator. The worship didn't create the glory. The worship just prepared the room for the glory. So we can prepare the room through worship. We can also prepare a place for the glory of God through expectation. Everybody say expectation. Here's something that I found out. Most people, when they come to a worship gathering together, they normally get what they expect. I need to say that again. People normally get what they expect. I mean, so many times people come to a worship service, they just want to rub a little bit of Jesus. You know, like putting on sunscreen. Just going to rub a little Jesus to help me get through this week. Just need a little bit of Jesus. Don't want too much of Jesus to mess with my life. Just a little bit of Jesus to help my conscience through the week. We're not going to experience the glory of God unless we expect it. We expect God to show up. It's going to change the way we act. I'm just letting it sit. Yeah, just let it sit. When we expect God to show up, it's going to change the way we act. We're going to act like it. We're going to come. See, I'm glad no one at Elation Church comes to leave. But I want to ask you a question. Have you ever gone to church to leave? I preached on the road for 20 years. I've met a lot of people that came to leave. Believe it or not, one day in North Carolina, I don't know why this happened in North Carolina so much. One day out on the coast of North Carolina, I'd only been preaching for 5 minutes. And this lady stood up and went, They had about a 45-minute presentation of seeing the same 12 pictures of the mission trip that only meant something to the people that had been on the mission trip. Have you been through one of those presentations before? And then I was the guest speaker. It was homecoming. We were having food after the service. And this lady gets up and goes, she's calling time on me. I didn't used to be as nice as I am now. But the second time she did it, a few minutes later, I said, ma'am, if you need to leave, right now is a good time. Because you're distracting everybody else in the room. So if you need to leave, right now is a good time to leave. Whew. She grabbed her purse, grabbed her husband, who was ashamed, and stormed out. You know what happened when she stormed out? Everybody started clapping. I guess nobody had the guts to tell her that before. I was just there that day. I'd never see these people again, so why not? I traveled so many hours just to get there. I wasn't about to stop in 5 minutes. I hadn't even got through my introduction yet. I was at another church in North Carolina. Not on the coast. Not on the coast this time, but I was preaching. And a guy goes, about the third time he did that, I just walked over in front of him and I said, I'm going to tell you something you need to do. You need to take that watch off your arm and you need to throw it across the room. I threw my watch across the room. What happened? I was there a whole week. He never did it again. He didn't leave, but he never did that again. I don't know why I got to keep telling stories. Now I'm going to call out Alabama. Is anybody from Alabama? Alabama. Went to this guy's house. They invited us to their house before the meeting even started on Saturday night. The guy said, I had to sit at the men's table. Again, I had to sit at the women's table. The guy told me in front of his parents were the patriarch and the matriarch of the church. That means for somebody to introduce somebody like that, it means they think they own it. So he told me, he said, now preacher, we get out of church at 12 o'clock. And we don't have services more than an hour. So every night this week, from when we start to when we finish, 1 hour. Everybody say 1 hour. 1 hour. So I said, well, how long have y'all been praying for this? Well, I don't know if they only prayed an hour at a time, but they had been having what was called in the old days cottage prayer meetings, even though those were kind of out by then. They were having cottage prayer meetings. They were praying for God, for an outpouring and a moving of God in the church. Praying. I said, how long y'all been praying? Because I knew they'd been having prayer meetings. Oh, we've been praying for about 8 weeks. I said, now you mean to tell me you've been praying for 8 weeks, but you're going to limit what God's going to do to an hour? He got offended. Good. Anyway, I got to speed this up because I got more to talk about. Listen, I didn't know who I was. Oh, that's what he told me. He said, you don't know who you're talking to, do you? Guess what? He was the chairman of deacons. He was the treasurer of the church. So that means he's going to be the one writing our check at the end of the week. You don't know who you're talking to, do you? And I about dropped my teeth when I looked over, because I had to lead the congregational music, and I looked over, and guess who's playing the piano? Chairman of Deacons, piano player, and the church treasurer. Most of you would have said, well, did you preach more than an hour? Well, I only preached an hour and 15 minutes, but the music went about 45 minutes, so it was a 2-hour service. It's coming. Sunday morning, while I was preaching, his face would get so red, like right at time to, when he thought it was time to be finished, his face, I thought the man was going to stroke out. Sunday morning, red face. Sunday night, red face. Monday night, red, just breathing. I kid you not. But Tuesday night, listen, when I gave the invitation again, when I said, is anybody here, you realize that you've just had a relationship with religion and not a relationship with God? I'm not asking you if you've been dipped, dunked, or sprinkled, or if your name's on a church roll. I'm asking you if Jesus is your Lord. And that night, Tuesday night, when I shared the gospel, nobody's looking but me. There he is sitting on the front row. His hand goes up. He accepted Christ. Can you believe? Somebody was the chairman of deacons, the treasurer of the church, and the piano player, doing it all in the flesh without a relationship with Christ. That's a miserable person. That's why he was a miserable person. Wednesday, when I saw him come into church, he had a smile on his face. And I walked up to him and I shook his hand and I said, how you doing? These are the exact words out of his mouth. I feel like a new man. Feel like a new man. He was a new man. Listen, if we come to leave, if we come with everything else on our mind, going through a religious duty or religious activity, we're not going to experience the glory of God. Here's the way we act when we expect to see God show up. We come in with anticipation. We lean in. We worship with intention. We remove distractions. And we make room. Make room for God. God meets us at the point of our expectation. What does hunger look like? Look to the person beside you and say, listen fast. Listen fast. What does hunger look like? Hunger seeks. Hunger seeks. Jeremiah 29:13. God says, if you look for me wholeheartedly, if you seek me with all your heart, you'll find me. You'll find me. He's not holding out. He's not going to hold out. Never has held out. If you look for him wholeheartedly, you'll find him. You'll find him. See, genuine hunger seeks not casually seeking, but passionately seeking, wholeheartedly seeking. Real hunger prioritizes the presence of God over personal preferences. That's the only way you're going to see it. Hunger also sacrifices. Hunger says, I'll turn off the noise. See, listen, church isn't the only place that you can experience the glory of God. I've shared this before, but I've experienced the glory of God in my car on I-4 before they added the other lane. when it would take an hour and 15 minutes to go 15 miles. I've experienced the glory of God in my car. But you got to turn off the noise. You got to remove the distractions. You got to create a space for God. Oh, how I want you to experience it. Hunger also stays. Stays. Sustained hunger. Sustained hunger is the mark of a people ready for the glory of God. Sustained hunger. God always meets hunger with glory. He always does. Moses cried, "Show me your glory." God responded. David longed for his presence. What did God do? God revealed his power and his glory to David. We didn't talk about this one this week, but we will. The early church cried out in one accord to God, and heaven filled the upper room. It's available. It's available. I think we're going to have 4 more weeks on the glory of God. This is just to try to stir up your hunger. It's letting you know what it is, how you can get to that point. It's going to take hunger. It's going to take preparing the way, preparing your heart, preparing the atmosphere. Hungry people see outpourings. Is there anybody in this room who would love to see an outpouring in this area? Is there anybody in this room who would like to see thousands of people come to Christ? Hungry homes see transformation. Hungry churches see revival. Hungry generations see a visitation. You can look back through history. You can even look at some of the things that are going on in places around the world today. In college campuses in the United States, you can see that hungry generations can see a visitation from God.
This online worship experience was brought to you by the friends and partners of Elation Church.